Hey everybody, hope everybody is doing well. So I wanted to make this video a while back ago, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that I just didn't really like about living in Las Vegas. Now, make no mistake, there's a lot of things I like about it, and many of you see my channel. I'm quite negative, I'm very critical about things, but that doesn't mean I hate or dislike living here. There's a lot that I like about it, and there's a lot of channels that's been popping out, All You Can Vegas, Jacob's Life in Vegas, that they talk a lot about living and exploring, just basically displaying about what's it like living here in Las Vegas, specifically Clark County. And I'm right here in the Sunset Station in Henderson, so that includes it as well. And I just want to point out that okay, I like a lot of what Jacob's Life in Vegas talks about. He talks a lot about the great things about Las Vegas. It's kind of like every day you're living in a resort, great amenities, great things to do, a lot of opportunities, especially economic. Not to mention the fact that there's a lot of things to see, there's a lot of opportunities to grow. There's a lot less downside risk compared to other metropolitan areas such as the cost of living, traffic congestion, and so forth. And I really appraise him for doing that. However, the issue, of course, is that Jacob's Life in Vegas doesn't reveal a lot of the problems, and he has, but not to the extent that I think he should, to explain to the audience of what it's really like living here. In other words, now I know he doesn't get into a lot of issues, particularly in politics, because he wants to stay away from controversy, and I understand that. He doesn't want to create friction, but I think you're supposed to know the issues, the corruption that goes on in Clark County to get an idea, a representation of what's really happening. And of course, one of the things, he doesn't talk about the corruption coming from the politicians, establishment, and special interest groups like Culinary Workers Union, Jim Murren of MGM Resorts International. See, I think it's very important that he talks a lot about things like this because, believe it or not, we get a sense of who's running the show, who is really having in control of everything that's happening. And believe it or not, and again, I don't think you're doing a horrible job. I think it's just very important that when you're watching videos from YouTube channels like Jacob's Life in Vegas, I think it's very important for people to actually look and hear from other sides to get an idea of what it's really like, because you can't just get everything from one side. You have to hear opinions from other views to actually see, okay, is relocating to Clark County, is it really something for me? Now, one of the things about Jacob's Life in Vegas is that, he doesn't talk a lot about the other issues that I think it's very important, such as the immigration concern. The area has one of the highest percentages of foreign-born people than any other place in the country, not to mention the highest percentage of non-legal immigrants than any other place in the country. And here in Clark County, we have a lot of problems associated with non-legal and even legal immigration into our society. And, this is the thing. A lot of people have commented in my video thinking, okay, is this guy Jacob Orth? Is he a con artist or whatever? I doubt it. I mean, some say he's being promoted by the LVCVA or the Realtors Association. I don't know. I doubt it. I think most likely he's doing this because he just has a pleasure. He has kind of a passion to share about videos of what's going on in the Las Vegas Valley. So, again, there's a lot of great things I enjoy living here in the Las Vegas Valley. However, then there's all these other issues. You talk about, oh, well, housing prices basically, is going up. This is strength for our economy. But when it rises, I've mentioned this many times, when it rises faster than inflation and wages, you know that it's a concern, especially in an area with an abundant supply of land. So it's going to lead likely to another chaotic series of events like we saw about 10 years ago. So overall, let me just get to the whole heart of the issue about the things that I don't like living about in Las Vegas. And I will make another video later on about the things that I do enjoy living about in this area. So number one of the things that kind of bothers me, it's a pet peeve, are the showgirls. I really don't think the showgirls are pretty, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of the front sign in the strip. You know, these things are not that pretty, you know, when they cover their hair. Another thing that I'm not a fan of is really not just the city of North Las Vegas, at least most of it, except for areas like Aliante, but just the north central part of the valley. You know, when you include the areas like north of downtown, the northeast area, you know, like Ovens Avenue, Martin Luther King Boulevard, that entire section, Rancho Drive, I'm just not a fan of it. It's not too pretty and it's not too interesting, believe it or not. And so it's just not a very attractive place to be. Another issue that I'm really not a fan of are the traffic lights in Las Vegas. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but many times I'm driving along like Dean Martin Drive or intersections like Flamingo and Eastern and Maryland Parkway, and sometimes I'm sitting down, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm waiting for Mr. Nobody. It's a red light, and then there's nobody crossing the other directions. And sometimes I just want to run the red light, but of course the cops are like everywhere and I often don't do it. And so a lot of the traffic lights are not working. It seems like they're based on a time system and not really based on a sensor system. And I've talked about this today to the Clark County Government Center. Another thing that I'm not really a fan of are like, you know, just all these pedestrians walking in the middle of the street, blocking traffic. It creates a high risk of pedestrian deaths. Now, the area has a lot of people that just don't own cars. And the problem is they live in areas where it was really designed for cars. And this is especially the case in the central part of the valley. And so it just makes the driving very, very unsafe, believe it or not. And of course, you have a lot of rough drivers, especially in the central part of the neighborhood. And I'm going to mention this again, and I've mentioned this before, but the problem isn't as bad when you go in the outer parts of the valley. Henderson, Summerlin, Centennial, Rhodes Ranch, and so forth. And this is the case with a lot of other issues, believe it or not. Now, of course, another issue, speaking of traffic, is a lot of the construction. And I'm getting tired of it. All the construction in the Spaghetti Bowl, construction here and there, interrupting, causing a lot of problems. In fact, our main source of congestion is not just construction, but of course the traffic lights and of course certain events that we have like EDC and so forth. Another pet peeve that I have about living in Las Vegas is just a lack of beautiful windows. I don't know about you, but the windows they put on the homes, or just the homes in general, are not often good quality. They put these really low quality windows, and it's just like 20 years after the home is built, the windows just like basically lose their luster. They really fade away. And it's not just the low quality windows. They put all these shades over the windows. So it's like, basically you're just getting like a box with, you don't really see anything inside. It's just the home is like completely covered up. So honestly, add some good quality windows and let us kind of get a nice view of the home that it really, really is, believe it or not. And so another thing about Las Vegas that's, I think, a pet peeve, speaking of the houses, are these ugly air conditioning units. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you look in the older neighborhoods, the homes that were built before the late 90s, you'll see these like ugly air conditioning units on the roof. And it's just so hideous in my opinion. It's like you want to throw a rock at it. And I've been to Southern California. You hardly ever see that in many of the homes. But just seeing that ugly air conditioning unit on the roof is just such an eyesore. And I don't even know what the developers and the buyers were thinking for buying the homes initially that having these units on the roof. Not just the air conditioning units, but the roof materials underneath it is just such a contrast with the rest of the entire roof. It's just so ugly and hideous. Another thing that I don't like about living in Las Vegas that really bothers me, which is a pet peeve, is just the corruption in general. You know, establishment politicians, Dean Heller, Jacky Rosen, Harry Reid, Brian Sandoval, and the list just goes on, and just the corruption just goes on. It just seems like the people that have just lots of the power are the Sheldon Adelsons, the Jim Murrens, and all that. And Jim Murren is a very controversial individual. I'll do more videos exposing on him, believe it or not. Again, he's the guy that started the paid parking initiative. He's the guy that sold shares of stock weeks before the Mandalay Bay incident on October 1st. So it's just a rampant corruption. And just really the problem is the people that are not willing to stand up to it. And of course, people are growing, they are standing up over time, but I just don't think it's as great as other metro areas across the country. And see, we're just getting the same old establishment figures on and on. Now, of course, the top two more important issues that I think are a pet peeve living here in Las Vegas. Number one is just the massive abusive immigration system. And you know, what really bothers me about this massive immigration is that all it's really giving us is just more competition for resources, jobs, housing, and so forth. And believe it or not, we're really not benefiting from all this immigration. You know, all these people coming in, having higher birth rates, flooding our Clark County Unified School Districts, our medical care, and so forth. Believe it or not, we have 25% of the students in the school district that have a parent who's not in the country here legally. And of course, you include, you know, other like low-skilled or immigrants that come from third world countries. That number is actually much, much higher. And so it's just a really, really misallocation of our public taxpayer dollars. And more importantly, you know, it's just used for corruption, for votes. But on the other hand, you know, unlike California, where there's fields, where we need the migrant labor, where there's Silicon Valley, that we bring high-skilled engineers, we really don't have that. And all they're really doing is taking jobs in front counter, blackjack dealing, you know, jobs in food serving. Large number of those disproportionately are Asian. It's funny how we always seem to criticize Latino immigrants. Latino immigrants do the cleaning of the hotels, which a lot of people can argue those are jobs that Americans won't do. But the jobs like in the customer service sector and the jobs especially in construction, those are jobs that Americans can do. And these are things that you got to understand that it's really just getting the way of American-born citizens like myself. You know, the labor force participation rate for young people, it's lower than it was compared to several decades ago. And something tells me that these low-skilled jobs, something just really does not add up. Okay? These jobs can be given to individuals like myself. And that's just really how insane this really is. But it's not just that. It's also the multiculturalism, the diversity. And diversity as, yeah, there are bright spots to it. But if diversity was so great, why is there natural de facto segregation in Henderson, Summerlin? Why are those demographics different versus downtown or north central part of downtown? See, people want to live and prefer in homogeneous, more type societies. And I just fear that all these demographic changes, all this multiculturalism, the way I see it, not just happening here, but also in London and Berlin, it seems like they're just trying to replace society. And that's just really disgusting. And I, as an Iranian-American, U.S. born, I'm starting to figure this more and more out. Okay? And all this multiculturalism. And again, what it's really the issue is a lot of these people. Again, yeah, I'm not trying to point out saying that, okay, Las Vegas has to be catered to certain types of people. No, because there are people who are blended in from every roots, from every type of the world. But what I'm trying to point out is that you get a lot of these people that can't speak English. They're not blended into society. And they're working in customer service positions. And that's just really a problem. A lot of people are just tired of it. And what are we going to get from more immigrants? Just more traffic? And people are talking about we don't want more homes in Las Vegas. Well, there's going to be more demand for more homes if you just keep dumping in more people. And people are concerned about water supply. So, well, we got to reduce the number of green cards and end the chain migration. So that's another pet peeve. Now, more importantly, another pet peeve, which I'll do another video about this some other time, is the fact that, well, the wobbly home prices. What the hell is up with that? Haven't we learned our lessons from the 2007 to 2012 massive foreclosure epidemic affecting Clark County? Because it seems like, I just read an article, that Las Vegas is in the top markets, risk for another housing bubble or another overvalued housing market that's going to crash, and it's going to deliver another round of foreclosures, mess, depreciating housing values, more unemployment, more distress, just the list goes on. And very few people, unlike myself, are awake and standing up to this issue. And this is why I was just there, and I'll make a video about this. why we need to expand the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, disposal boundary. And that is because of the fact that we have to create opportunities to increase housing supply. But one of the reasons why the housing prices are increasing, number one, is because, yes, you can say the BLM is having a role, but you got these low interest rates. The mortgage lending really hasn't changed that much. The low money down payments, the shortages of labor, which I think that can be solved by 3D construction printing, which is growing popularity all over the world. So there's a lot of other factors. And Commissioner Larry Brown told me there's land banking. And of course, the land's further out. You need to pay all the money for infrastructure and sewage costs. So all of these factors in consideration causes prices to rise. And this is just such a disgusting feature because we not only get these wobbly housing markets, but it's just that it creates vast problems for our society. We have an abundant supply of land. We should not see this. People have to work longer hours. The spouse has to work, very likely. People have to commute longer times. There's more competition for labor. There's less discretionary spending. There's all these different problems that's coming along. And of course, you have to add into foreign speculators. Because I think we should tax these people, people coming from China. Decades of all these trade agreements has caused, the buying of our dollars. People come here and buy our assets, and that's just one of the problems. So these wobbly home prices have to change. We have to go to a stable housing market, back to the system that we had in the 20th century. All right, anybody, thank you guys so much. Great pleasure. Please spread this video. If you're a subscriber of Jacob's Life in Vegas, take my views and opinions. See what you guys think. So if you guys want to move to Las Vegas or thrive, whatever it is, look at my advice, share this video, and let's work together. Because again, I'm not just criticizing. I actually have solutions on how to make Clark County a better place to live. So, spread this video. Take care. Have fun.